Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. Last week on Sunday I did a video on my 10 favourite live albums. I ranked them from 10 to 1 with a few honorary mentions. And I had so much fun I thought maybe I could do another ranking. So I thought, what should I do? And my thoughts immediately went to the band that made it all happen for me in the first place, the band that I grew up with. It's the Beatles, of course. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to rank the 12 original Beatles UK studio albums. In my preference, from my favourite at number 1 to my least favourite at number 12. But there's no such thing as a least favourite, it's just degrees of perfection, really. But yeah, it's the listening experience for me, it's the album experience, and that's what I'm going to try and measure. It's sitting down, listening to the album. Which albums do I think are perhaps a little bit better than the other ones? So, there are 12 albums. So I'm not counting the Magical Mystery Tour album, which only really came about in what, 1976, I think. In the UK, it was originally a double EP. And we all sat around one Boxing Day, I think it was 1967, waiting on BBC television to watch the Magical Mystery Tour. What an event that was, with varying degrees of positive reception, but that's another story. The Magical Mystery Tour album that came to be in 76, of course, has lots of big hits, singles from that time that weren't on albums. It's not an original album, so I'm keeping it off the list. I'm going by the studio ones. Now, these albums I have here, these vinyls, all come from this box set, the Beatles collection, which is in fact a 13 LP box set. It also includes a special promotional album. It's the Beatles Rarities. I got it the wrong way around. Oh no, it says the Rarities on both sides. Of course it does. This is such a lovely album of rare tracks, of a couple of B-sides, 2 German versions. Komm, gib mir deine Hand and Sie lieb dich. You didn't know which ones those were. It's also got Rain, the greatest B-side of all time, on here as well. But that's not part of the ranking. Okay, let's go. Now then, this is my personal ranking, so of course you're not going to agree with it. And of course there's going to be lots of people who won't agree with whatever I've done. But I'd love you to put some comments down in the comments section. Give me your rankings. Be kind. Number 12, Yellow Submarine. Okay. Now, it's kind of the least Beatles album of all of these albums, isn't it? Because one side of it is George Martin's orchestral pieces that were part of the movie. And in fact, they're lovely pieces of music. Sometimes I start thinking of Days of Future Past by the Moody Blues when I listen to this. But the Beatles' original songs on side 1 are a mixed bunch. I mean, we've already got Yellow Submarine, haven't we? On, yeah, that one, Revolver. We've also, and we've got All You Need Is Love, which was a single. And then the other 4 songs are a little bit rough and ready. I have to admit, I quite like Hey Bulldog. It's quite raw, and it feels like it's an interesting concept. And George is Um, it, yeah, well, yeah, maybe not. George's songs aren't that great. So anyway, as a whole listening experience, as a Beatles listening experience, this is the one that does it least for me. So that's why it's at number 12. From now, it gets difficult. uh, dear. Okay. At number 11, I've gone with Please Please Me. Now, at the time, Please Please Me was the most radical thing I'd ever heard in my life. And of course, as time goes by, and as the 7.5 basically years of the Beatles' existence as a recording act goes by, the music just develops and develops and develops. So when one listens to a later period Beatles classic, and then one listens to Please Please Me, it really does sound like the Dark Ages, doesn't it? But I love this album. I absolutely love it. Twist and Shout at the end is one of the great rock tracks of all time. And this was 1963, March 1963. The fact that it was all recorded in one day is absolutely incredible. Tracks that I particularly love, well, Love Me Do, obviously. Do You Want to Know a Secret? A Taste of Honey? P.S. I Love You? Please Please Me? Excuse me. I saw her standing there. Wow. And as a 9-year old, when this came out, it just completely turned my head as to what pop music could be all about, because that's what we called it back in the day, pop music. So that's number 11. Okay, number 10 is its successor, With the Beatles. Now, I know there are a lot of people who switch those around and prefer Please Please Me to With the Beatles. I just feel that the recording, the production on this album, I feel like George Martin's learnt a little from the first experience. He's worked out a little bit more how to get, I guess, the best range of sounds from these guys. Again, this is still 1963. It's November 1963. But there's a bit of experience to work with. And I mean, I just love the way some of the covers on this particular album. Please, Mr. Postman is one of the great cover versions of all time. But it's got It Won't Be Long. That first song, It Won't Be Long, and the call and response, gorgeous. It's got All My Loving. It's got Till There Was You, another cover. Roll Over Beethoven, another cover, but their cover versions are simply superb. Likewise, Money right at the end. You could kind of tell that this was a bit of a rush job. EMI suddenly realised what they had in their laps here, and it was a let's get another album out quickly. So I think the Lennon-McCartney originals aren't perhaps quite as strong because they were under a bit of a timeline, a time frame really. But their cover versions are absolutely superb. Okay, so that's what, number 10. Now then, number 9. Some people aren't going to like me for this, but it's Let It Be. The final released album, the second last album that they recorded, because of course they went back into the studio after this doomed project really, and made Abbey Road. It was a doomed project because they couldn't fulfill on what they wanted to do. They wanted to create basically a live album, an album recorded live. And of course, Paul wanted to go out on, not on the road because he knew the other guys would say no thank you, but he wanted to play live performances. And while George and John were kind of saying no, no thank you, they had been doing their odd little live performances with other people around this time. So it became, let's do it live in the studio, but that requires more and more work, and they weren't up for it at this particular time. And Paul was getting more and more desperate to try and drive this project home, so he was alienating himself from the rest of the band. Um, we've all seen the Let It Be documentary. It's Or is it Get Back? I always get confused. I don't know so much about the editing of all of that. There must have been some tough moments, but there must have been lots of wonderful moments, because if there hadn't been lots of wonderful moments, they wouldn't have carried on and produced Abbey Road. So balance is needed here. Songs from Let It Be, it just it feels like they're not taking it seriously. It feels like they're being raw for the sake of being raw, and I think the standard of some of the songs is disappointing. If there was ever an album that came out that um, I was underwhelmed with when it came out, it was this one. Maybe because um, it follows in release sequence, it follows Abbey Road, and that would have been a difficult matchup. But from this album, songs I love: Two of Us, uh, Across the Universe. It would have been better without the specterization of strings. On my rarities, I've got the version without the strings. It is infinitely better. I Me Mine is interesting. Maggie May is awful. Um, the Long and Winding Road, again, the strings spoil it a little bit. Get Back is a stone cold classic. Uh, it's interesting, which is why it's above the first two albums. Um, but it's not an album I go to very often. Right, next up, Help. And again, this, I think, suffers in comparison with other albums of this middle period, because this is about the middle period now, isn't it? It suffers a little bit because it's an album sound, it's a movie soundtrack, and so it feels a little bit stressed out. They've got only so much time to write songs. Um, and I feel like they're straddling between two kinds of eras here a little bit, and it doesn't help the flow of the album. But of course, you've got Help. You've got to hide your love away. You're going to lose that girl. Ticket to Ride. Yesterday. I mean, they're fantastic songs, and this is what I'm saying. I'm not criticizing any of these songs really. Every album has just fantastic songs, so I'm not criticizing any album. This is just my level of preference, I guess. So after Help, what's that? One, two, three, four, five. Uh, what's next? It's Beatles for Sale. One of my favourite album covers of all time. They look so tired. They look absolutely beat and exhausted. This is their fourth album in 21 months. And it sounds like it in the songs, but oh, what wonderful songs. No Reply, I'm a Loser, Babies in Black. The opening three songs of this album can live with any opening three songs of any album ever. Um, we won't talk about Mr. Moonlight, but then on side two, you got 8 Days a Week. Every Little Thing Every Yes fan knows all about every little thing, was one of my favourite Beatles songs from the moment it was released. And then when Yes came and did their cover version, um, I was over the moon. Um, some brilliant songs on here, and there's an emotional depth to it. Maybe it's just the world weariness of everything that they'd been through. But it comes through in the album. I think there's so much emotion and depth to Beatles for Sale. By far the most emotional depth of any of the albums that we've spoken about so long. Then we come to the next movie soundtrack, but quite possibly the greatest movie soundtrack of all time, from certainly the greatest pop music movie ever made. A Hard Day's Night. All the tracks on side one were on the album, were on the movie, weren't they? A Hard Day's Night, I Should Have Known Better If I Fell, I'm Happy Just to Dance With You, and I Love Her, Tell Me Why. Can't Buy Me Love, was that in the movie? I'm not quite sure. But seven songs, those seven songs are all Stone Cold classics. Uh, Things We Said Today on side two, You Can't Do That. Love those songs. But the opening guitar chord to A Hard Day's Night just tells you everything you need to know about what was going to happen to this band in the future, how innovative they were going to become, how creative, the leadership role they took in rock music. Okay, now we're getting into the really good stuff. I mean, that was just good stuff, really good stuff. Next up for me is Rubber Soul, um, and I think this is the forgotten Beatles album. This is the album that should be um, shouted about. My channel is called Have You Heard, and we champion underappreciated classics. This is such an underappreciated album. Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood, You Won't See Me Nowhere Man. Think for Yourself, The Word, Michelle, that's just side one. Every song is, it's a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough for them. Um, and then, of course, Girl, I'm Looking Through You, In My Life. What gorgeous songs. Um, Rubber Soul. Love that album. Now we come to the final four. And you all know what the final four are. Now it's all about how do I rank the final four? Well, I guess on some days I might rank them a little bit more differently to maybe today. Um, but I'm just thinking about my total experience of listening to Beatles albums, and okay, there's this much between them all. But I'm going to go for the least consistent one as number four in the ranking. And that, of course, is, well, not of course, but to me, it's the White Album. Now, being a double album, I suppose there's more likelihood of it being inconsistent because you've got more chances of maybe messing up a track or two. But when you want to sit down and listen to a side of music that is going to take you by surprise, even if it's the 100th time you've listened to it, or you're going to pick up on something just a little bit different that you never realized was there in the first place, or that you'd perhaps forgotten or overlooked. You just take out a side of the White Album. Anyone, doesn't matter. There'll be a classic or two on every side. There'll be something to make you scratch your head. They'll make you something to go, really? What? I mean, but any album that has Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, Glass Onion, Obladi Oblada, Bungalow Bill, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, I can just go on, and that's just the first side. Um, I absolutely adore Martha, My Dear, Blackbird. I have a very soft spot for Piggies, even though lots of people don't like it. Rocky Raccoon, I think, is one of the cleverest songs that Paul ever wrote. Um, who was it that said he didn't? Andy Edwards didn't like Rocky Raccoon. He said he could leave it. I'm never leaving Rocky. I think it's so good, and it's a throwback to Paul's musical childhood. I think. Um, Julia, Birthday. Every birthday I play it, of course. Your Blues, Mother Nature, Son. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. Helter Skelter, Long, 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 Revolution 1. Um, I don't put down a needle on Revolution 9 every time and go, oh, I'm looking forward to this. I must be honest. But once in a blue moon, it just reminds you of just how weird and wonderful the Beatles can be. Right, the top three. I mean, there's nothing between these. I've gone with Sergeant Pepper as number three, um, and I don't know why I did that. Almost, I mean, what an album! It's an album that changed the musical landscape in 1967. It changed the cultural landscape in 1967. The story that David Crosby tells of everybody there in San Francisco, him and um, Cass Elliot and the guys from Jefferson Airplane, Paul Kantner and the like, all sitting down um, in a stairway of, I think, David Crosby's apartment block, and just listening to a taped version of this album and going, wow, what the hell is this all about? Um, it's great, and I'm not even going to go through the songs. The songs are absolutely wonderful. And of course, it's got A Day in the Life. Um, but if I had to choose one song that I simply adore, it's Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. There we go. So that's number three. Now then, this is even more tough. But I think I'm going to put from the number one is the record I enjoy listening to the most. So this one has to be number two. But I enjoy listening to this just as much. And it's Revolver. And to me, um, this is the most important Beatles album in their canon. It's the album that made the most impact on the recording industry, not the cultural thing, as I was talking about with Sergeant Pepper, but the recording industry. How songs were written, how songs were played, how they were recorded, how they wrote these songs. Um, there's not a bad song on this album. And it's got a few of my absolute favourites. A Taxman, I think, is the greatest opening song on any album. Um, Eleanor Rigby is the most beautiful song on any Beatles album. Tomorrow Never Knows, of course, is the most groundbreaking song on every album. But my actual favourite song is Got to Get You Into My Life. And the little guitar break towards the end is my favourite couple of seconds of music in my record collection. What a wonderful album, which of course leaves this one as my favourite Beatles album. Of course, it's Abbey Road, the last album that they recorded, which makes me feel so wonderful that they finished recording. They finished their recording career on a high. and it gets me emotional every time I listen to it. I always preferred side two to side one. As I've grown older and more considered, side one has become more and more wonderful to me. And I can't now listen to this album without listening to side one before switching over to side two. Um, every single song is a gem in all its different facets, in all their different glories. But the long medley is my favourite piece of music. Um, and from that long medley, You Never Give Me Your Money is um, an absolute highlight. So there we are. Those are my 12 um, original Beatles albums ranked. I'm sure you're going to disagree with me, so please tell me what you think in the comments below. There's so much to talk about with this band, the band that changed my life. I was 9 years old when Love Me Do came out. I was 16 when Let It Be was finally released in May of 1970, and that was the end of the Beatles. And it was quite a traumatic time for me. I didn't know what I was going to do. Fortunately, um, other bands had been watching and listening and taking the lead, or following the Beatles' lead, and were doing wonderful things themselves. And that's why we're here today with all our record collections, loving all of our different types of music. Um, but if it wasn't for these guys, who knows what might have happened or what might not have happened. These guys were the innovators, they were the leaders, and they were my teenage years. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Have a good look at the channel and see what we do. We've got lots of nice underrated stuff on there. But until the next time, cheers. Thanks very much and bye bye.